So I'm rather a microbiologist with a lot of interest on fungi, but I made my way in research on the mycorrhizal interaction. So I was driven to the plants and also to the trees. We are working on how the fungi are helping the plants, how in the field they exchange nutrients with the plants. We have a lot of interest on tropical and temperate forests. In temperate forest, we work a lot on truffles, for example. And in all the ecosystems, we have an interest also on the plant-plant carbon transfer by way of the fungi, the so-called mycorrhizal network, where one fungus is linking two plants. And I also try to devote a lot of time to outreach or telling what are the results of the research to final users. Soil is living, and what is living in the soil is a few roots, a few animals, okay, that you can see, but mostly microbes. In 1 gram of soil, you have more than 1 billion of bacteria from something like 1 million of species. So not only there is a huge, tremendous biological diversity, microbiological diversity in the soil, but it is also a functional biodiversity. It's not only a question of number of species of bacteria, of fungi, it's also that they have very different roles on the iron cycle, fixation of nitrogen, recycling of carbon, etc. And this functional diversity is shaping what is soil. And one of the outputs of that is plants, trees. So soil is really something living, and we start only to understand how it is living. And it's also giving some ecological service, as we say now, in terms of allowing the plant to grow. And this is allowing the food to be produced as well. I am a mycologist. As I was very young, I was simply going on mushroom foray, identifying fungi. And of course, at some point in my academic curriculum, I had to find a thesis and something, I would say, to eat, something relevant for science. And then I discovered that my favorite fungi, among other microbes, they were very active in shaping life and ecosystems. And I'm very excited when I read papers or have my teams in Paris or in Gdańsk in Poland, finding new way the mushrooms and the microbial life of soil is shaping nature and plants. That's really the thing. I mean, there are tons of things we couldn't imagine. If I was telling what I find now, some 30 years ago, it would look like science fiction. No one would believe it. And what we will find tomorrow, you cannot believe it. There is a lot of interaction between the soil microbiota and the roots. One of them is the mycorrhizal association, where fungi are colonizing the roots, exchanging carbon from the trees against mineral nutrients, nitrogen, phosphorus, water, they've been collecting in the soil. Some trees even harbor some nitrogen-fixing bacteria that are producing amino acids from the atmospheric nitrogen. So it's a food issue, but also it's a protection issue. Those microbiota, they are protecting the roots, it's the place where they live. So they protect their food and place to live. And they are protecting the roots, they also are sending some modification systemically in the whole plant, in the whole tree, that is making the defense of the plant higher. So it's a protection, nutrition protection. And finally, what we understand now is that the pathogens in soil, they are manipulating the distribution of plants. Many plants, when they install somewhere, they are more or less cultivating pathogens, favoring their pathogens, and they will not go further, settling their offspring there. So in a way, some plants are rare simply because there is a negative feedback from the soil. Some other plants are very frequent because this feedback is not so important, and they can make big clusters. Invasive plants often are plants for which the feedback is very positive. So as a whole, the distribution of plants, their rarity, their invasiveness, their pattern of distribution around us is driven by microbiota in soil. So in a way, you can say that when you see a plant, it's the result of a microbiological process. Urban soils, it's a matter of a very modified microbial diversity and microbial process, but this is a very professional view of that. My view of it is rather a citizen view. cities are in a way fighting against soil, which are covered, made inaccessible, unproductive. You prefer a stone cover to a tree or a plant. We have to rediscover that there are soils in the city. By the way, we have a lot of flat roofs which could harvest soils and production of plants. It would be both recreative, both very healthy, very nice looking, and also maybe a way of producing things. So I think that thinking of urban soils, my view is that we have to teach or make outreach to make people more aware that there is a richness under their feet, and that with a bit of soil we could make the city more easy or nice to live in. So for me, the emergency with cities and soil is train the citizens, make the curricula, making people aware that what is a soil and that it's still there in the city. It's even more important that most of our children are living in cities and not outside, so they don't even imagine what could be. Trees have a positive, receive kind of positive opinion those days. There are books sold on the life of trees, the intelligence of trees, the communication by trees. So there is really a potential of the trees to bring back people to have a link with nature. But I think that the tree is often viewed in a bizarre way. It's only above ground, like children drawing a tree, there is no roots, of course, whereas 1/3 of the biomass is below ground. It's even more than when a tree is blown off by the wind, because all the small roots, they stayed in soil. There is 1/3 of the tree below ground. So what we have to do is to use the appealingness or the interest of people for the trees to bring them to more important things, like that it's connected and living from the soil, so an approach to the soil. That also the tree is a place inhabited by many species, many interactions. In the trees around us, I saw some galls, I saw some oidiums, I saw a lot of things that can remember us that even a big organism is depending on or sometimes parasitized by many other things, so that life is a network. So I think that the tree is a wonderful door to bring people back to what exists in nature and finding what is life and ecosystems.